Stephanie White's latest comments have shaken the Indiana Fever to their core, igniting a storm that no one in the organization saw coming. What began as an off-season reflection turned into one of the most divisive moments in recent WNBA history. A moment where the head coach appeared to question the very foundation her franchise was built on. In one interview, she didn't just reveal her perspective. She revealed her priorities, and to many, they were completely backward. It all started when White referred to Caitlin Clark's midseason injury as a blessing in disguise, a comment that stunned fans who saw Clark as the future of not only the Fever, but women's basketball itself. The statement came across as callous, almost celebratory, as if Clark's absence somehow benefited the team. Behind the scenes, the Fever front office was reportedly furious. That single phrase hinted at something deeper, a coach who, rather than embracing her generational star, may have secretly believed her team played better without her. When asked about her goals for the upcoming season, White didn't make Caitlin Clark the focus. Instead, she doubled down, saying the Fever's top priority was retaining Kelsey Mitchell, not building around Clark. That declaration sent shockwaves through Indiana's executive offices. After all, Clark wasn't just another draft pick, she was the franchise. She was the reason Indiana Fever games were suddenly selling out, why national networks were fighting for broadcast rights, and why the WNBA's viewership had tripled since her arrival. For the head coach to imply that Clark wasn't the centerpiece felt like open rebellion. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about loyalty, power, and vision. For months, whispers had circulated that Stephanie White preferred veterans like Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston over her high-profile rookie. She reportedly saw Clark as a disruptor, a player whose fame threatened the balance of her locker room. And to a degree, she wasn't wrong. Clark's arrival had upended everything. Her presence brought new fans, new money, and new pressure. But instead of harnessing that momentum, White seemed to resist it at every turn. Inside the Fever organization, executives couldn't believe what they were hearing. One insider reportedly said, "We built everything around Caitlin, the marketing, the sponsorships, the national partnerships, and then our coach gets on camera and says someone else is our priority?" The Simon family, longtime owners of the Fever and Indiana Pacers, viewed it as a direct slap in the face to their investment. To them, Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player, she was the business model. Her arrival had transformed a struggling team into a national brand overnight, but White's words exposed something that fans had only suspected, a philosophical divide between the front office and the coaching staff. The executives saw the Fever as a modern franchise centered around a once-in-a-generation player. White, on the other hand, seemed stuck in an old-school mindset, where seniority trumped star power and control mattered more than creativity. Her public comments didn't just spark anger, they deepened the fractures already forming behind closed doors. Players reportedly noticed the tension too. Some veterans sided with White, believing she was protecting the core group that endured the franchise's darker years. Others quietly supported Clark, seeing her as the only reason Indiana had national relevance again. It wasn't just a disagreement, it was a culture war inside the locker room. The irony is that White's loyalty to Mitchell was understandable on paper. Kelsey had been with the team for 8 years, surviving multiple losing seasons while maintaining professionalism and consistency. White praised her as the foundation and the heart of this team. But that loyalty came at a price. By positioning Mitchell as the team's focal point, White risked alienating the player who had revived the entire organization. It wasn't that fans didn't appreciate Mitchell's work. They did. But everyone knew who the Fever's future was. And it wasn't Kelsey. The front office tried to contain the fallout, but it was too late. Social media erupted. Clips of the interview spread across Twitter and TikTok, sparking debates that dominated sports media for days. Hashtags like "Build Around Caitlin" and "Fire White" began trending regionally. Fans accused the coach of jealousy, of trying to sabotage Clark's rise, and of refusing to adapt to the modern WNBA where star power drives everything. Even national analysts weighed in, calling White's comments tone-deaf and self-destructive. For many, this wasn't about one careless statement. It was about a pattern. Ever since Clark's debut, fans had noticed the tension between player and coach. White's rotations often benched Clark late in games. Her offensive schemes seemed designed to limit Clark's creativity, and her press conferences consistently emphasized team balance over Clark's individual brilliance. Now, with these comments, it felt like confirmation of everything fans feared. that White simply didn't want this to be Caitlin Clark's team. The Fever's ownership couldn't ignore the backlash. Insiders say heated meetings followed the interview. Executives reportedly debated whether to release a clarifying statement or even consider leadership changes. One faction argued that firing White would send the wrong message, that the team was letting a player dictate management decisions. Another group believed the opposite, that keeping White risked losing the locker room and alienating the very player who put them back on the map. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark said nothing. No social media posts, no press conferences, just silence. That silence spoke volumes. It painted her as the calm in the storm, the professional who refused to engage in drama while others lost control. Fans rallied around her even harder, seeing her as the victim of an outdated power struggle. Every time she stepped onto the court after that, every basket she scored, every assist she delivered, felt like a statement. Proof that she didn't need to say a word to remind people who really ran the show. In the broader picture, this controversy revealed a truth that every modern sports organization eventually faces: the clash between control and charisma. Coaches crave structure, but stars like Caitlin Clark thrive on freedom, the freedom to innovate, to lead, to define the game on their own terms. Stephanie White's mistake wasn't that she valued team unity. It was that she underestimated how much the world had changed. The Indiana Fever aren't just a basketball team anymore. They're a brand, a movement, a story that millions of fans have emotionally invested in. Now, that story hangs in the balance. Insiders believe the Fever's ownership is quietly evaluating their options. Replacements have been discussed behind closed doors, though nothing has been confirmed. What is clear is that something has to give. Either White adapts and embraces the new era, or the franchise will move on without her. Because as far as the business, the fans, and the league are concerned, Caitlin Clark is the Indiana Fever, and that's where things stand now. A generational player trapped in a system afraid of her power. A coach torn between loyalty and evolution, and a franchise at a crossroads. The Fever can no longer pretend this is business as usual. The future is already here, and it wears number 22. But the real question is, will the Indiana Fever finally build around Caitlin Clark before it's too late? Will Stephanie White swallow her pride and evolve, or will her stubbornness drag the franchise back into mediocrity? And how long can the front office sit on its hands while its superstar silently endures the politics surrounding her? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Has Stephanie White crossed the line, or is she being unfairly criticized for standing by her veterans? Should the Fever make a coaching change to protect Caitlin Clark's future, or is this all being blown out of proportion by the media? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest stories shaking women's basketball, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next chapter in this ongoing drama between Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever.